Welcome to Threaded Lore, where we get stories from all over internet to you. Some are mysterious, some are thrilling, and some will leave you questioning reality. Sit back, listen, and let the stories unfold.
My father died on a Wednesday morning in February. I was the one who got the call. I was the one who drove to the hospital. I was the one who sat with him in his final hours. I was the one who called my brother to tell him it was over. My brother lives in Vancouver. He had visited twice in the last 4 years. I want to be careful about how I tell you this story, because it is easy to frame it as a story about a bad brother. It is not that. It is a story about a letter, and about the 34 years of misunderstanding that one letter undid in about 20 minutes. My name is Rachel. I am 36 years old. I grew up in the same town where my father lived his whole life. My brother Daniel is 4 years older than me. We were close as children, the kind of close that comes naturally when you are the only 2 children in a quiet house with parents who worked long hours. We had our own language, almost, references only we understood, games we had invented, the particular intimacy of sharing a childhood. And then Daniel left for university at 18, and something shifted. Not dramatically, not in a single moment, just gradually, the way water reshapes stone. He came home for holidays, then less often. He called, then less often. He moved to Vancouver with a woman he had met in his second year. They married, they had children. And somewhere in all of that, the brother I had grown up with became someone I spoke to 4 times a year on occasions that required it. Our parents never said anything directly about Daniel's absence. That was not how our family operated. We were a family of managed silences. But I could see it, the way my father's face changed when Daniel's name came up, the particular quiet that followed. My mother, before she passed, would deflect, change the subject, make tea. She had a talent for filling silences with practical tasks. I had asked Daniel about it once. We were both adults. I was in my late 20s. I asked him why he did not come home more. He said he was busy. He said it the way people say things they do not plan to explain further. I let it go. I always let it go. Because that was my role in this family. The one who stayed, the one who managed, the one who let things go so that the peace could be maintained. After my father passed, I spent 3 days at his house, sorting, organizing, the practical work of death that nobody prepares you for. Daniel flew in for the funeral. We spoke the way people speak in those circumstances, careful, warm enough, performing the closeness that grief requires without quite feeling it. He left 2 days after the service. He had to get back, the children, work, the life that existed entirely separate from this one. I stayed another week to finish sorting my father's things. It was on the 4th day that I found the box. It was in the back of my father's wardrobe, plain cardboard, sealed, my name written on top in his handwriting. Not Daniel's name, mine. Inside were things I expected, photographs, a watch that had belonged to my grandfather, some documents he wanted me to have. And at the bottom, under everything else, a sealed envelope. My name on the front, and written below my name, 2 words. Hori. I sat on the floor of my father's bedroom for a long time before I opened it. The letter was 4 pages, handwritten. My father had not been a man given to writing. His handwriting was careful in the way of someone who did not trust their own penmanship. He started by telling me he loved me, He said it plainly, without decoration, the way he said most things. Then he told me something about Daniel. Something I had not known. Something that, as I read it, rearranged 30 years of assumptions in a way I was not prepared for. When Daniel was 17, a year before he left for university, he told my parents something. He told them he was gay. My father wrote this plainly. He did not dress it up. He told me that Daniel came to him and my mother one Sunday evening and told them, and that my father's response had not been what Daniel needed. He did not write the details of what he said, but he wrote that he had been afraid, and that fear had come out as anger, and that the anger had lasted longer than it should have. He wrote, "I said things I cannot take back, and Daniel heard things from me that a son should never hear from his father." He wrote that my mother had been gentler, that she had tried to bridge the gap in the years that followed, but that some damage, once done, does not fully heal. He wrote that Daniel had left for university, not because he wanted to start his life, but because he needed to leave ours. I put the letter down after the second page. I sat in the silence of my father's house. I thought about all the times I had been quietly frustrated with Daniel, all the times I had characterized his absence as indifference, all the times I had held his distance against him without understanding what that distance was protecting him from. I thought about Daniel at 17, in this house, being brave enough to say something true and having it received badly, and then spending the next 19 years building a life somewhere else. Somewhere he did not have to be the person who had said that true thing in this house. I read the rest of the letter. My father had, in his final years, tried to make it right. He had called Daniel. He had apologized. The apology had been accepted in the way that difficult apologies are accepted, with the words, but without the full weight lifting. He wrote that Daniel had been kind, kinder than he deserved, but that there is a particular kind of damage that an apology can acknowledge but not undo, the kind that lives in the body of the person who received it, in the decisions they made afterward, in the geography of their life. Daniel was in Vancouver, not because he loved Vancouver, but because Vancouver was not here. My father knew this, and he had lived with it, and he had waited too long to say it to the right people. He wrote about me in the third page. He said he had not told me at the time because he did not know how. He said he had not told me in the years since because he thought it was Daniel's information to share, not his. He said he had watched me grow quietly frustrated with my brother for 20 years, had watched me carry the weight of being the one who stayed, the one who showed up, the capable, reliable, constant daughter. And he said he was sorry, not just to Daniel, but to me, for letting me believe the wrong story about my family for 34 years. He wrote, "You deserve to understand. You both did. I was too afraid for too long. That is mine to carry, not yours." I called Daniel that evening. He answered on the third ring. He sounded tired. The particular exhaustion that follows a parent's funeral when you have also been carrying something else for years. I told him I had found the letter. There was a long silence. He said, "I wondered if he had written it." I said, "You knew he was going to." He said, "He mentioned it a while ago." He said, "I told him he did not have to." He said, "Dad said he needed to." We were quiet for a moment. I said, "I am sorry, Daniel." I said, "I spent a long time not understanding." He said, "You could not have understood. You did not have the information. I said I knew. I said it still mattered. He was quiet again. Then he said, "Thank you for calling. Not thank you for understanding. Not everything is forgiven now. Just, thank you for calling." Which, for Daniel, I think was the same thing. I want to tell you something about what it is like to be the child who stays. I do not think people who leave their families understand it fully. Not out of cruelty. Just because you cannot fully understand a weight you are not carrying. When you are the one who stays, you become the keeper of the ordinary. The one who notices when the house needs painting. The one who drives to appointments. The one who learns which pharmacy your parent prefers and which doctor they actually like and which of their neighbors is the one to call if something seems wrong. You learn the texture of someone's daily life, and that texture becomes yours. And over time, without meaning to, you start to resent it. Not the person, not the tasks, but the assumption. The quiet understanding that you will be there because you have always been there, and nobody has thought to ask whether you would rather be somewhere else. I never wanted to be somewhere else. I want to be clear about that. I loved my father. I loved being near him. I would make the same choices again. But I wanted to be chosen, not defaulted to. And there is a difference. My father understood this. I know that now because he wrote it. He wrote, "You were always the easy one, not easy in the sense of simple. Easy in the sense that you asked for very little and handled what was given to you, and we never had to worry about you." He wrote, "I think we used that against you without meaning to. I think we gave you things to carry because we trusted you to carry them. And we forgot that trust, without acknowledgement, is just expectation." He wrote, "You deserved more acknowledgement than you got. From me. From your mother. From the version of this family that existed before I made the mistake I made with Daniel." I read that line 3 times. The version of this family that existed before. Because that was the thing, wasn't it? The thing none of us had said. There had been a before. A family before the silence. Before the managed distances. Before the careful conversations at Christmas. I had grown up in the after. I had thought the after was just what families were. I had not known there was something I was missing. Daniel and I talked about this when he visited. Not at first, not in the first day or two. Those first days were practical, going through cupboards, deciding what to keep. But on the third evening, we sat at the kitchen table with tea. Neither of us was really drinking, and he said, "Did he tell you about before?" I said, "A little." He said, "We used to be a different kind of family." I said, "I know." He looked at me. He said, "You could not have known. You were too young." He said, "There was a summer, before I told them, when I was 16. We went to a cabin somewhere in the mountains, the 4 of us." He said, "It was the best holiday we ever had." And I remember thinking at the time, I need to remember this specific feeling. Because something in me knew it was going to change. He said, "I did not know how to not tell them. I was so tired of carrying it." He said, "I thought it would be okay." He did not say anything after that. And I did not push. Some things do not need to be said to be understood. He came to visit 3 months later. Just him. Without the children this time. We spent 4 days at my father's house, sorting what was left, deciding what to keep and what to let go. We talked more in those 4 days than we had in the previous decade. Not about everything, not all at once. But enough. Enough to start rebuilding something on a more honest foundation than what we had been standing on before. He told me about his life. His husband, Marcus, who I had only ever known from Christmas cards, what his days were actually like. The particular texture of the life he had built in a place far enough away to feel safe. I told him about what it had been like to stay, to be the present one, to carry the weight of nearness. He listened in the way that people listen when they have been waiting a long time to hear something. My father left the house to both of us equally. We decided together to sell it. What we did with our halves was different. Daniel put his toward a room in his house that he has turned into a studio for painting, something he had always wanted and never made space for. I put mine toward nothing specific. I have it in an account. I look at it sometimes and think about my father, about what he was trying to say, about the years we all lost being careful around a truth that could have brought us closer if it had been said in the right direction at the right time. I do not know that I am angry. It is more complicated than anger. It is more like grief with an added room. A grief that keeps revealing new spaces the longer you sit in it. Daniel and I speak every 2 weeks now. Actual conversations, not the 4 times a year obligation calls. It is still new. We are still learning each other as the adults we became rather than the children we were. Last month he called on a Tuesday afternoon, no occasion, just to talk. I did not know how much I had missed that until it happened again. I think about my father's timing sometimes. Why he waited until he was gone to say what he said. I think part of it was fear. The same fear that caused the original damage. Afraid to sit in the room with both of us and be accountable for the fullness of it. And part of it, I think, was a kind of faith. Faith that once he was not in the way of it, Daniel and I might find our way to each other. That the truth without him in it might land differently, might land better. I think he was right about that. I wish he had trusted us with it while he was alive, but I am glad he trusted us with it at all. If there is something you are keeping from someone in your family, something you are waiting to say until the right moment, until it is easier, until enough time has passed, I want you to consider something. The right moment is not always the one that feels comfortable. Sometimes the right moment is just the one that is still available. Say the thing while you still can. Leave your thoughts below. Subscribe for a new story every week. See you in the next one.
If you like the lore, please like the video, comment your views, share it with others, and please subscribe for more.